Welcome back, true believers and all you merry Marvelites, to another very interesting Marvel Games related video pertaining to the currently untitled Captain America and Black Panther game. Now, even though we only received a very small teaser trailer which unveiled exactly what this game's main premise is going to be, and also received a very small press release from Marvel, which only provided us some very minor details about the game as a whole, we're still waiting around to see exactly what this title's main gameplay mechanics are going to entail, especially considering that this is not only going to be a game which is currently being led by none other than Amy Hennig herself, who, if you don't know, is primarily responsible for the first 3 Uncharted games, but for the company of Skydance New Media themselves, this is in fact going to be their first ever video game, which, in my opinion, is certainly going to be raising the expectations from fans as to what exactly we hope to see from this game. But on the flip side, while we might have to wait a bit longer to see exactly what gameplay will look like for this experience, at the very least, we can pinpoint exactly what this game's main source of inspiration is going to be from the Marvel Comics source material. And based on the comic itself, this game's story might just end up being a complete one-to-one interpretation of this overall storyline, which is none other than a Marvel comic titled Captain America and Black Panther: Flags of Our Fathers. And just to read an extremely brief synopsis of the comic itself, for the first time ever, see the full story of the first meeting of Captain America and the Black Panther. It's a World War II adventure featuring a young Steve Rogers, the Black Panther, and Nick Fury and his Howling Commandos in combat with the nastiest Nazi villains in the Marvel Universe. Now, while some people might simply view this comic as a standard Marvel team-up, there is actually a lot of impact behind this story. Because coming from the comic's main writer himself of Reginald Hudlin, he stated that he considered Captain America and Black Panther as an important story to tell and a suitable send-off to his time in Wakanda. Both characters represent the ideals of their nation. Captain America stands for the best of the United States, and Black Panther symbolizes the greatness of all of Africa. More than their physical prowess, the moral compass is what makes them natural leaders. So even though I'm still personally a little bit disappointed knowing that the Skydance New Media Marvel game is not focusing on the Fantastic Four, this overall team-up between Captain America and Black Panther is definitely going to have a much more impactful story pertaining to those characters, instead of having the narrative be spread out across a larger team like what we saw within Marvel's Avengers. And making the story a bit more of a smaller scale and narrative-focused adventure is definitely going to make story and single-player-centric gamers a lot more satisfied. And this formula of a game already worked out incredibly well for Marvel in the cases of both of Insomniac's Spider-Man games as well as Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. And if they're able to continue that same winning streak here for this Skydance New Media game, I definitely think it's going to deliver a narrative that we will be genuinely surprised with. And speaking of the narrative itself, this is where we're actually going to dive a bit deeper into the story pertaining to Flags of Our Fathers. So in case you're someone who wants to fully read the comic for yourself, just make sure that you click off this video and come back after doing so. But on the other hand, if you're someone who doesn't mind all that much about being spoiled towards comic book storylines, then I'll be sure to summarize it to the best of my abilities. Or more specifically, I'll be sure to highlight the most important elements from this article on CBR.com, which fully breaks down everything that you need to know about this comic book narrative. So coming from CBR.com, their article states Skydance's untitled Marvel game could feature a Black Panther romance. Amy Hennig's Marvel game will feature Black Panther and Captain America, but it could also include a tragic love interest for Black Panther as well. So as we know already, Amy Hennig's Marvel game was finally unveiled at D23, and it will focus on Captain America and Black Panther battling Hydra during World War II. The game will also feature 2 more characters for players to control. One of them is Gabriel Jones, who was a soldier during the Second World War and a member of the Howling Commandos. He was one of the first people to see Captain America in action, whereas the other character is named Nanali, who is a member of the Dora Milaje and leader of the Wakandan spy network. Now, both of these characters have comic origins, but Nanali may hint at a deeper story beat for the game. While Captain America will more than likely be everyone's favorite Boy Scout, Steve Rogers, this game's Black Panther won't be T'Challa for obvious reasons. reasons. Instead, players will be taking the role of T'Challa's grandfather, Azuri, and both he and Captain America did meet during World War II in the comics. However, Cap isn't the only character in the new game that Azuri has a deep connection with in the comics. Nanali is an incredibly important character to Azuri in the comics, and this game may be setting up a wonderful love story, a tragedy, or both for her character. In the comics, Nanali is the Queen of Wakanda and the wife of Azuri. She was never a part of the Dora Milaje as she is in the MCU, but she does encounter another Black Panther villain known as Fritz Claw. He is actually the father of Ulysses Claw, who would go on to become another staple Marvel villain. Claw's plane crashes in Wakanda, and Black Panther and the Queen initially befriend him and nurse him back to health. And afterwards, Claw is actually impressed with their vibranium supply and their devotion to Bast. He then has the Wakandans build an idol of Bast and proceeds to demand that they worship it as a god rather than a kindred spirit. When they refuse, Claw tries to kill Azuri, but instead, he kills Nanali. In turn, Azuri rips off Claw's steel hand and he flees back to Germany. We currently don't know exactly what Azuri and Nanali's relationship is within this game's universe, but considering that Skydance is actually taking the extra step to make Nanali a fully playable character, that certainly highlights to me that they seem to have total and complete faith in her character pertaining to this game's story. There is always the possibility that in the game that we could see the origins of Azuri and Nanali's relationship come to fruition and also further develop into a much more passionate love story between the two, which would then allow for an immensely tragic outcome to take place if Nanali ends up dying in the game. Especially considering the fact that Nanali will be playable at some points during the game, it would surely make it hard for the player if we were to lose one of our 4 main characters. But with all that said, everybody, that's the video I have for you today, and please let me know all your thoughts in the comments section down below. What do you think of this Captain America and Black Panther game seemingly taking a lot of inspiration from the Flags of Our Father comic? And are you personally excited to play as both of the non-superpowered characters in this game of Gabriel Jones and Nanali in comparison to Captain America and Black Panther? The more we end up learning about this game and its premise, the more interested I become in it, but I really hope that the gameplay for this experience can deliver by the time we actually see it in action. So fingers crossed until that time comes. But until next time, true believers, thank you all so much for watching. Leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you did enjoy, and for more Marvel Games videos like this in the future. And without further ado, peace out.